look for roles that really are what is fulfilling to you. And this is the work that I do with my clients in the Career Clarity Accelerator, that we really work on identifying what an ideal role is, what an ideal industry is, what an ideal day is, what's an ideal culture, ideal salary, ideal team. All of these things you need to be able to be intentional about when it comes to the new role that you're going to be interested in. Welcome to the Career Scoop Podcast. I am your host, Ebony Joyce. I help corporate professionals find and secure successful careers in record-breaking time using my proven framework. I'm on a mission to not only reduce burnout and overwhelm in the career search, but also in life. This is a school where you don't want to miss not one class, so be prepared to be schooled. Class is now in session. Hi, welcome back to the Career School Podcast. I am your host, Ebony Joyce, and today we are talking all about the fall or the September hiring surge. Now, I don't know about you, but the fall is my favorite time of the year. I love chunky sweaters. I love boots. My sister is all into the fire pit and we're doing s'mores, like all the things. This is our first year in our new home, so decorating in the fall decor is something I'm looking forward to. But nothing actually excites me more than the expected hiring surge that is going to be happening, that has already started happening because we're already in September, but will continue to happen this month, October, and hopefully into the more later parts of the year. But typically, we do see a hiring surge in September and October. So that's what we're talking about today. Now, for me, and for many of you, like, we enjoy the summer. I love being able to work out outside and all the things that the summer offers. But one thing that the summer just did not offer this year was a hiring surge like we're going to see in the fall. So while we had a hot summer, it was a record breaking summer as far as temperatures were concerned for a lot of folks around the country and around the world, actually. But the job market cooled off, right? So in September, there were 187,000 jobs added. And in June and July, it was about 150,000 jobs. So the summer was very slow. We saw an uptick in August, and we're expected to see an increase as we go into the fall. So the one thing that I wanted to talk about today was, how do we prepare for this fall hiring surge that we're going to see? Now, employers may have took some time off from hiring. A lot of times, what we see when it comes to the fall is because we have a lot of summer vacations. Kids are out of school. There are so many things that really are the reason for why we see a slow market in the summer. Now, I will say that we're not expected to see September hiring surges the way that we've seen them in the past, but we are expecting to see an uptick. So I don't want you to expect that you're gonna get 10 offers or anything outrageous, but we're going to see that increase. Okay. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Job seekers, whether you are actively or passively looking for a role, there are going to be a few things that you are really going to need to be able to do as we move into this the surge, right? And so I want to make sure that you are prepared for what that is ultimately going to look like so that you can take advantage of the employers and some of the new roles that you're going to see on job boards, or you're going to network your way into, whatever have you. Okay. So this does not mean that you need to rush and start applying for roles, or that you need to accept the first role that you get. And I think that sometimes when we hear, a hiring surge, that we need to just run out and start applying. This still does require for us to have preparation. It still requires for us to be intentional. It still requires for us to have a strategy. Because one thing that a hiring surge or a hiring increase brings out is more competition. And so, yes, there are going to be more jobs, but there are also going to be more people applying for those roles too. And what I want you to do is to be prepared to land one or even multiple offers during this time. All right, so we're going to get into it. Before we do, let me know. Like, I am team fall. Are you team fall, team summer, or are you team something else? I would love to know. So let me know what your thoughts are. All right, let's get into it. So, how do we take advantage of this hiring surge that we're going to be coming upon? Well, I'm going to give you a few tips. The first step is to identify and be intentional. So, step number one, identify and be intentional. It's important for us to be able to identify the kind of roles that we're actually interested in. It's important to know what you want as well as what you do not want in your next role. So while companies may be hiring, every role may not be for you, and that is okay. This is the time for you to decide, identify what it is that you want in that next role. What is it about your current role that you like and you don't like? So that when you are looking and you're searching for a new role, you avoid those things that you do not like in your current position. And so a lot of times what I see is when people start hiring, surge or not, that we just jump out here on LinkedIn, we just jump out here on Indeed or Monster or wherever it is that you're applying. We just jump out on job boards and we start applying for jobs, not really, one, identifying what it is that we want, and two, not being intentional about what we want. So it is important to really sit down, take a moment before you go into this job search and identify a few things. One is, what industry are you looking to make this next career movement into? Now, while we're going to see a surge, that is not going to be a surge in all markets. Companies have just had layoffs as we start to enter into, we're in the last quarter of Q3. So as we go into Q4, you really want to make sure you've done your due diligence. Again, companies have just seen some layoffs at the end of August, so that they could have, they could end the year potentially on a better note, right? Like, a lot of industries seeing some bad financial reviews. So it's important that you do your due diligence. And when you identify companies that you may be interested in, make sure you do the research to say, hey, what has happened in the company within the past 3 months, 6 months? Is this a company or is this an industry that I should even, put my interest into right now because of what they have going on? So that is the first thing. While, like, the healthcare industry, just for example, they're expected to see that surge, but that's always something that we've noticed in healthcare, is that there's always a need or a desire. So make sure that when you identify, you are not just identifying a role, but what industry. I tell people that you should have an ideal industry. Where ideally do you want to spend the next 3 to 5 years, whatever it may be? So that is important. Then you want to be intentional. You want to be intentional with those industries, because you want to be intentional on the relationships that you're building with individuals again, as you're networking and you're going to events or you're going online, you want to be intentional about the relationships that you're building with individuals who are in some of those industries that you may be interested in. I think one of the misconceptions when it comes to, like, when we talk about a surge, right, is that like jobs are going to be just coming out the woodworks, and that's not like, if you're just going to have, you should just apply for any and all jobs. This is not the time to just apply for whatever is available, but this is a time for you to be very specific and picky and particular about what it is that you want to do. So, again, don't rush and apply to anything. Don't be desperate in your job search. Like, look for roles that really are what is fulfilling to you. And this is the work that I do with my clients in the Career Clarity Accelerator, that we really work on identifying what an ideal role is, what an ideal industry is, what an ideal day is, what's an ideal culture, ideal salary, ideal team. All of these things you need to be able to be intentional about when it comes to the new role that you're going to be interested in. And so, with that, sometimes that may mean that you need to do an assessment. Like, where are you now and where is it that you want to go? What do you want from this new role? Is now the right time for you to search? Like, we really need to be intentional about that. Like, don't jump out in the market just because the market is, and I'm using air quotes, right? Hot. That doesn't mean maybe it's not your time. You do need to do an assessment and make sure and understand, is it your time? Why are you searching? I think sometimes we don't know why we're searching. If you don't know what it is that you're looking for in your next role, then maybe now is not the right time for you to look. If someone comes to me, and people do this all the time, I get these messages in my DMs quite frequently when people say, I'm ready to leave my job. And I say, oh, okay, what are you looking for in your next role? And they say, I don't know. If you don't know, then now is maybe not the right time for you to search. Maybe now is the right time for you to get some clarity. And again, we don't always have to jump. You could use this time to do an assessment on what it is that you may be looking for in your next role, because that goes to step number 2, right? It is preparation. If you are not prepared, then you don't want to waste your time looking for jobs, applying for roles, because if you have not prepared, one, to identify what it is that you're looking for, then that means you have not prepared your marketing documents, which means your LinkedIn profile, your resume, your cover letter are not strategic. They're not really speaking to one, an industry. They're not speaking to a solution. They're not answering the company's problem. They're not solving that problem. So if you jump out here blindly, then that means you're not prepared for, one, to apply, two, for interviews, right? Like, we have to make sure that we do our due diligence. Are you prepared for what that means? Now, what that does not mean is just going into your resume and cover letter and just making a few changes. You really need to make sure that this is why it's important to identify an industry and make sure you actually know what is the problem that said company is having. Why is this job open? Job descriptions are really the blueprint for that. Like, we have to be able to read and understand job descriptions. And this is how you prepare those documents. Make sure that, you know, resume, but recruiters and hiring managers can find you online, because your LinkedIn profile speaks to the solution, not to the job you currently have, but to the job that you are actually looking for. What I see a lot of times is job seekers are looking just for the next ideal or logical step, not to necessarily move up, but we're accepting roles that are lateral movements. And in some cases, yes, maybe you do want a lateral movement because we have many different scenarios for why we are looking to change roles. But in most cases, you're accepting a lateral move out of fear, out of desperation, out of lack of clarity. And so there are so many other reasons, and there are some other reasons too, while we're just taking that lateral move out of fear, because we're like, okay, I'm a specialist, but or I'm an individual contributor, but to be the team leader, to be a manager, to be a supervisor, to be a people leader requires X. And because you don't know how to articulate your value and communicate your strengths, you find yourself in the lateral move, in the next logical step move, versus going for the higher level positions because you're playing it safe. Okay. So, step number 2 was all around being prepared to have your marketing documents ready, being prepared to be a marketer, be a seller, be prepared to talk about your transferable skills, be prepared to bring the value that you know you bring into the organization, which takes me and leads me into my final step, which is positioning. Are you positioned in a way, it does tie into 2, right? Like, are you positioned in a way that lets recruiters, hiring managers, your network know that this is the right role for you? Like, when we see hire, and we don't even have to be in a hiring surge for this to happen, you're going to have competition. How are you setting yourself apart from your competition? If your resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile looks like everyone else, how are you going to be that standout candidate? What makes you unique? Like, we have to be able to articulate our skill set. We have to understand and know what the company's problem is and why we are the solution to their problem. What are our transferable skills? What is it that we want to do? Like, you really have to understand how to position yourself as the best candidate. And when you start to just say, oh, there is a hiring surge, I'm going to apply to any and every job because I just want to make a move, that is not the best move for you. Now is not the time to sit back and just watch things happen. Now is the time to really understand what is your unique value proposition. What is it that you're going to bring to the table? How do you take your skill set, your education, your experience, your expertise, and all of these things, and how do you stand out? What makes you unique? What makes you different? When you don't know, and the funny thing is, we are all unique. We are all different. None of us have the same background. Just because you have the same degree as someone, you don't have the same background as those people. Yes, maybe you both have degrees in HR, but you've been in aerospace and defense for the past 15 or 20 years. You've been in medical devices. You've been in utility. You've been in the tech industry. You've been in the financial industry. You've been a teacher. You've been a nonprofit. And those are the things that make you unique, being able to take what you have done and really being able to speak to how you can bring value to where you're trying to go. Like, you don't have to stay stagnant and stuck, but you do have to understand how to position yourself as we go into as we start to go into the last quarter of this year. And don't use this time, don't use what I say against yourself. And sometimes people will do that. oh, well, since I don't know what I want to do right now, I'm going to wait until the new year to start to look for a role. Because my resume and my cover letter are not where it needs to be, I'm going to wait until the new year. Because I don't know how to position myself, I'm going to wait. You will wait forever. So now is not the time to postpone. Now is the time to get help and support. So if this is something that you need help and support with, then we should have a phone call. I'm accepting new clients into the Career Clarity Accelerator program, which is my one-on-one program where I work with individuals to really understand what it is that they want to do in their next role and create a clear plan and steps on how to get you there. I always tell people the strategy is the easy part. It is the mindset work that you're going to have to do that is going to help you reach that next level. And so if you are willing to do the work, the mindset work, and the strategy that is required, then we should have a conversation. You can go to the link in the bottom of the show notes and schedule a call with me so that by the end of the year, you have landed that new role. Now, on average, it does take, anywhere from 3 to 6 months to land a new role. And so if you want to land a new role by the new year, now is the time to do so. So a hiring surge does not mean that the job is posted today and you're going to get an interview tomorrow and you're going to be starting next week, right? I wish it was that easy. But we have to there's still going to be the traditional hiring process. You have to, one, update your documents. And then once you update your documents, you apply, and then the recruiter will reach out to you for a phone interview. And then you'll have a second round interview, however many. Hopefully we're talking about 2 to 3 interviews, going back and forth in salary negotiations or whatever negotiations that you find valuable to you, putting in your 2-week notice where you are, and then starting. So we're looking at, 9 to 12 weeks. So if landing a new role in 9 to 12 weeks is something that you desire, it is available to you. So let's connect. Go to the website, schedule a consult where I will get to know more about what are some of the challenges, where you feel stagnant, where do you feel stuck in your current job search, and let's create a career development plan to get you from where you are to where you want to be. All right. So that is it for this episode. I look forward to hearing from you about what it is that you're looking for as we enter into this September or the fall hiring surge. And we will be talking soon. I will talk to you in the next episode. Hey, thanks for listening. Like what you heard so far and want to take this work deeper than the podcast and work with me privately, one-on-one, then book a free sales call by clicking the link in the show notes below. Or you can visit www.nextlevelcareer.co/coaching. If you've enjoyed your listening experience, share this episode, then leave a rating and a review. Until next time.